Hey, John, welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me, Jason.
Yeah, excited to have you on. Tell us who you are, what you do.
So I'm Jon Rivers. I'm a co-founder and co-owner of an agency called Marketeery. We focus purely in the B2B space, and just taking that deeper, I look at it, if we say industries, which is, we quite often tell our B2B customers, we're really heavily in the ERP CRM space. That's where we support the partners and what we call ISVs, add-on solutions that are adding on to those ERPs. And at the same time, I would take that down even deeper, is that we spend a lot of time in the Microsoft ERP CRM space. That's where we really spend most of our time, not limited, but that's where we have most of our clients.
Awesome. And how'd you get started? Was this by accident or?
That's also a funny story, right? So how did I get to where I am? I always like to go back a step. I actually trained as a developer, got into development, started to realize dev was not the place for me. Ended up migrating into help desk, running help desk consulting. A company I joined was in the ERP space. So I worked heavily in that, ran a team when I came over to the US and the UK. And as I grew with that, we then suddenly had a little bit of a problem with the product we had, is that the company that was we were connecting to suddenly got picked up by Oracle. And that just messed us all up. I then worked with some developers to actually go out there, build some integration into the Microsoft ERP space, and then really help grow from a pre-sales channel side, that ISV, to be well known. Then I jumped into another ISV, ran all their channel. And this is a long story, right? So at the end of the day, but eventually, as I was working for that last ISV, I had to do a lot of marketing myself. I got out there, used a lot of social media. It's funny, we hear going around today the word social selling. I feel like I was doing that 15 years ago when LinkedIn was new, where everyone uses a resume, and I built it out. From there, I left that organization and then realized that a lot of the people that I knew and worked with in the partner ecosystem really needed help at that time with social media. So I actually kicked off another agency at that time. And then during COVID, joined forces with my partner in crime, Dan Sager, and we kicked off Marketeery to really grow the business and focus in this ERP CRM space. So
That's awesome.
probably by accident, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I started off as a developer, but the problem with me starting off as a developer, because I mean that's what my degree was, but I just sat by really smart people and I outsourced all my programming work. So when I did get a job as a programmer, I was like, what the hell is this?
Way to go. Yep.
Yeah, I was like, I have to, and I was always more of a creative, like a designer. Like I was a cartoonist. I love design, and so. But when I met my old business partner, he was a programmer. So I was like, look, you do the programming, I'll do the design, and let's see where it takes us. So.
Yeah, I think I always had it in the back of me of being that sort of way. My first ever job, if anyone, well, everyone knows what fonts are when they're using Word and other stuff. I actually worked for a company that actually produced fonts. This goes back, this probably starts to date me very quickly. Back in the days of laser printers, used to have these cartridges that used to plug in. We used to develop probably the most of those around the world. HP was a big client of ours as well as others. So I had to be creative in that role. And I think it just kept on wanting to come out. And then when I got the opportunity, it came out.
That's awesome. Let's talk about kind of what are the stages you felt like you guys went through when you started the agency to where you're at now? Like how many stages do you think you've gone through?
I would say we've gone through the good times and the bad time stages. Right, good growth, and then it slows down and go backwards, and then you sort of like you take a step back, but then you take 2 steps forward.
Okay.
And I think we just gone through that again this year.
Why do you think, like, like I look at it as when you start an agency, it's fun and you're getting clients, you're making money, you don't have many people, if any, right? And you're just like, man,
Right.
this is awesome. And then you're like, I want more of this. I want to scale it. So what when did you guys go through kind of the bad times where you felt like you did two steps back? Walk us through that.
I think it's one of the learning curves I think we went through was at the end of the day is you take on some good sized clients, and then over a period of time, you're being successful with those clients. And then they decide that they're actually going to take someone internally.
Mm,
And that could then change the relationship because it could be either of the following. It could be that they hire someone that has their, so they hire a director of marketing or just even a marketing manager. And then they decide that that person comes in that really wants to bring in their own team, right? So maybe they've been out there for a while, they have the relationship, they don't want to work with you, right? So at the end of the day, that disappears. The relationship you still is there, but it just doesn't continue. Or it could be that that person's come in, it just doesn't have the same um, thoughts and strategy as what you've been doing with a client. So they go their own direction. Now, not all clients go that. Sometimes it goes the other way, right? We still end up doing additional business for them, not necessarily the fractional CMO, the strategy and all that, because now they have someone internal.
mhm.
I think some of that, we lost a few clients through that. Um, at the end of the day, but we've gone back and we've started to evaluate that and start to learn that that's not a bad thing if that happens, because what we've done is actually got that client to a successful
Yep.
situation where they can hire someone. And we should be proud of ourselves because we've got them there. Now
Yeah,
the
I look
challenge
at,
is just getting, yeah,
and I think that's a good way to look at it, because I used to take it personal when people would join our community and our mastermind and then they would leave. And I'd be like,
right,
right? Like, you were in it for 3 years, 4 years. We became really close friends. And I'm like, why are you leaving us? But
right,
then I realized, I'm like, you guys are graduating, right? Like, you've graduated to a point where you can sell your agency. You've graduated to a
right,
point where you are not the CEO anymore. You can get on the board of directors of your own agency and you don't have to run it, and you can go do all these little side projects. And I started looking at it that way and I was like, okay, cool. Like, we've done our job, because you're never going to hold on to your clients forever. And another thing too, I looked at, especially when I remember us going a couple steps forward or a couple steps back, when I felt like we took a couple steps back, and I chat with people about this all the time, and you tell me if this resonates. Like, you lose three clients and you're like, man, I took a huge hit and I was counting
yeah.
on that. Does that go back to your pipeline, or maybe like, were you at that time, was your business based on referrals and word of mouth?
I think there's two. I think there is that. I think it's also is when you're trying to grow your practice, I think probably for a lot of folks, right, is that we even as co-founders or founders or whatever level at the C level, is that you also get yourself into the weeds. You're doing a lot of the stuff that
Mhm.
technically others could do, but you still are not letting go. And yeah, it could affect the pipeline. At the end of the day, is you end up working in the weeds for 5 days a week, but you're not doing enough to really drive that next opportunity, right? So I can see you agree this 100%.
Oh yeah. Well, I
I
mean,
think it happens to everyone, right?
it's the agency hamster wheel, right?
Right. Yeah.
You go, I want more clients. So you go out, you do sales, you do marketing as an owner, and you get that client. And then you're
Yeah.
like, oh, I need to do that work. So then the owner is actually doing that work that you should not be doing. First off, the owner
Right.
should not be doing sales. It shouldn't be doing marketing, right? Like, when you get at scale. And so you're doing all this, and then you start going, oh man, sales is taking a hit. Now I need to
Yep.
hire someone to take this. Then you hire someone, and then you're like, oh my gosh, the business is not as profitable. Now I need to sell more. right? And it's just this cycle up,
Yeah.
you know, this hamster wheel that just keeps going around. And the only way I felt like I was able to get out of it, or I see agency owners get out of it, is just going, look, I'm going to realize my role as a CEO versus an owner. So I'm curious, what do you think the most important roles as the CEO, as the owner, to really take the agency to the next level is for you guys?
I would say it's getting in or changing the mindset to understand that you cannot be in the weeds.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a number one takeaway for me. And the fact that you got to get out there, but at the same time, if you're getting to that point, or at some point in the future, if you're you want to get to a point where you sell the agency, you can't be in the weeds,
No.
right? You, at the end of the day, to be able to step away when you purchase, well, at the end of the day, if you're the one doing all the work, you're not going to be as valuable, and you're going to continue being in the weeds. So you got to find a way to do that. But I think that that is a big challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. I see it as you got to build the leaders within your organization.
Right.
Right. And the most important thing I have to do is I have to set the vision and have to communicate it to the whole team. This is not like
Yes.
it's not like a retreat. You have once a year retreat and you go, all right, gang, get together. This is our mission for the year. This is our
Right.
goal. And then everyone forgets about it. I'm like, no, no,
Yep.
no. Like, you have to live and breathe it. And then I also looked at it as I needed to coach and mentor my leaders to be better leaders.
Mm-hmm.
When I started doing that, then it enabled me to have freedom. So like and I remember going through this, I would go into like a meeting and be like, go into a creative meeting. No, Jason, we don't need you. Go into a sales meeting. No, Jason, we don't need you. And I'm like, son of a bitch, like the agency doesn't need me
Right.
anymore. And I would get depressed. But then I realized I
Yep.
was like, agency needs me for something else.
Right. I think there's another piece to that one as well, Jason. At the end of the day is also, as you're evolving as an agency, is the people that you may have had at the beginning may not be the people who are going to stay with you. And that's not necessarily in a bad way. It's just the evolution. It's like any business, right? Everyone evolves with that. And we went through that probably in the first year and a bit, as we got more into thought leadership content and deeper into some of the writing we were doing. I just look back and I think about one of the writers we had, great writer, but was really struggling with what we needed. And they were probably our number one writer. But we held on to it too long. And I think they also held on to it too long, which actually affected some of our relationships. But we were able to turn that back around. At the end of the day, we ended up having a conversation, and it all worked out. And it was like, the writer at that time was a contractor, and it's like, as soon as we had the conversation, the hands were up. It's like, thank goodness you're the ones. I was scared to reach out to you because I didn't want to leave you in the lurch because you were beginning. But yeah, I think it's that, and it's finding those right people.
Yeah, and there's someone explained as I'm trying not to sneeze. You got me all choked up, John. But all right, stop to sneeze. If you look up and touch your nose, you can stop a sneeze. Isn't that like, if you don't take anything away from this podcast, you know how to stop a sneeze now. But someone told me a long time ago, because that happens, right? You start the team you start with is not going to be the team that you end with.
Right.
And I think a lot of us, we have these personal connections and we treat everyone on the team, especially early on, as family.
Yep.
And there's a different way to look at it. I want you all to look at it as they're your dream team. Like John, I think do you remember like when the NBA came up with their dream team for the Olympics, like in '95 or something like that?
I don't know it fully. I mean, growing up in England, we didn't really. I mean, to me, I'm more of, okay, we'll say it correctly.
Football.
I'm a football fan, not a soccer. But here,
Yeah.
So that's probably more. But I can understand where you're going.
You sure your accent sounded like you were from Mississippi?
It's funny you say that. How people will ask us, like, I'm from New York, and it's like everything goes quiet for a while. It's like, are you
Really?
sure?
Yeah, no, no. And they must have been on the secret sauce or something if they said New York.
Something. Yeah.
But back in the Olympics, they came up with a dream team for the NBA. It was kind of the first time they would bring the NBA players in
Right.
to Olympics, because before then it was kind of like amateur athletes. And that's kind of how I look at teams now. Is they're not my family, even though I kind of treat them like family and they're friends and like I'll do anything for them. And they even know they're the dream team. And sometimes
Right.
people will, get to different phases in their life and then they'll have to move on. But if you treat it as
Yeah.
a dream team, it's easier because you can't get rid of your family. And the
Right.
worst thing I see, we just got back from our digital agency experience in Colorado. And I remember chatting with one of the members, Jennifer, and she just got rid of her COO and she treated this person like family. And literally, this family member, so-called family member, almost literally took the agency to the brink. And
Right.
she'll make it through, but it just screwed up everything. And she has to kind of reset everything. But if she treated it as a dream team and realized months ago this person was not the right fit, she might not have been in the situation she had to go through.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it is tough. I think and I 100% agree with that. As I said, all the folks that we took on early, probably a little bit more friends and family. And hopefully some of those people may be able to turn into a dream team as well. Not to
Mhm.
say some haven't. Um, but it's also, I think, sometimes for us is trying to find the experience we need, because of we are being very focused in a certain domain. So of course, we're probably going to know these people that we're bringing in. So that sort of adds a little complication. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely one of the hiccups we've gone through. I think the other hiccup I would have said was, and we're still evaluating it as we go. Every quarter we reevaluate when the invoice comes in. Is all the tools that we have to invest in. And it's some days it's like, do we really need that? Could we get rid of that? I don't think. I mean, I don't think people realize. And I'll take someone having their own marketing department at a customer, how much it costs to have all these tools to be successful. And I think that's a bit, that really puts a lot of weight on an agency, because it's a bit like your wages, right? At the end of the day, I don't want to get too heavy into healthcare, but at the end of the day, if you're buying your own healthcare, you've got to earn X amount of money before you could even put food on the table,
Yeah.
right? So it's a balancing act of that as well. And as you grow, that can get more and more expensive.
Yeah. I always look at, expenses are expenses. And I always would start with kind of the end in mind, going, what is my profit margin I want?
Right.
Right. Or even before then, what is the money that I want to make? And then what does the agency need to make? And then
Yep.
also too, like if my goal is to sell one day and I know I need to be at a certain EBITDA in order to hit the number that I want, it's always backwards mathing into it, of going, all
Right.
right, where do we need to be? Where do I need to, what decisions do I need to make? And a lot of times it's kind of getting to a place where, when's the last time I raised my prices?
Yep.
We have a drinking game in the mastermind. I swear they do, because every time I tell any of the members on our meetings to raise their price or create a podcast, everyone takes like a sip.
Yep.
Um, and at the end of the day, it's kind of like raising your prices and charging enough. A lot of times fixes that, right? Like if your expenses
Yeah.
are X, and you're like, man, I'm you know paying a ton to all these softwares and these resources and all that kind of stuff. Yes, you should evaluate that, of going, which is the must, which is the nice to have, which is one that we don't need, right? You should do that on a quarterly basis. Totally agree on that. But, even before that, it's like, am I charging enough? I see like agency owners and agencies we look at, their margins are so slim. that, one little thing happens, they're in the negative or they're just breaking even. I'm like,
Mhm.
man, why? Like, you need to charge way more. And then they'll typically say, well, my clients want to pay that. Well, you need new clients.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely go through that with some of the campaigns we do, and it's always I would say a little bit of a challenge because some of it's also trying to use that as a door opener for that client to come for a
Hmm.
longer period, and then we can actually get to
Yep.
earning some better money from it. But also going back and also just overviewing and looking at what your expenses are. So
Yeah.
one of the things that we learned early on was there was a client we were working with that we were doing all the content writing, we were supplying it to them. 12 months later, they came in and said, look, none of this is getting ranked by Google. It's like, okay. So we started to delve in, we did some SEO auditing, only to find out is every piece of content that they are posted, they'd put no index on it. So Google was never going to pick up the stuff. So at the end of the day, it's like they really messed themselves. So from that point onwards, we always run SEO on any client, even that we're not offering it as a service. We want to keep an eye on, hey, are they tracking at the end of the day? So we adding, I'm just taking one small piece of
Yeah.
the analytics that we want to do to make sure that we're being successful.
Yeah.
But one mistake we probably did earlier on is that we didn't include the cost of that service, right? Even that we weren't necessarily showing the customer it, we're in an indirect way because we wanted to keep an eye on to prove we were successful.
I would actually tell you to tell people that, or,
Yeah,
because I'm all about going to a client and getting my foot in the door.
right.
But I would tell them, I'd go, look, I'm willing to take it on the chin on this one just to prove ourselves to you.
Yep.
Our prices are normally this big. And when I say raise your price, I'm not saying raise your prices on all your clients right away. I do it in phases. Like one of the mastermind members, Dean, he was kind of in this situation. And I told him, I said, look, any of the new prospects coming in, you're going to raise your prices. So then when you're double the amount of your current clients, then you can go to your current clients because now if they call you on your bluff, you can
Right.
get rid of them.
Yep.
And usually what happens is you have all your new prospects, they pay you double. I'm just using that as an easy example. Then you go to your existing clients going, hey, we're doubling our prices. We haven't raised prices in 10 years. It's going to be this. You have this amount of time to decide. Usually, what happens is about half of them will say yes, the other half will go away. So now you have
Hmm.
less work for your team, more profitability,
Right.
um, and then the difference makes up. But with Dean, all of his clients said yes. So he made $76,000 more a month in reoccurring revenue by doing
Right.
this.
Yep.
Right? It's just, and it's like, cool. Now we have some money to go do stuff, to invest back in the agency, to tell that great story. And then the cool part about this story with Dean, I think 12 months later, because he was so profitable, he sold and got an
Right.
8x multiple.
Yep. It's a good 8x is a good number. Yeah. And I mean, we've been going through that this year is finding where we can start to lift up. I think that also sort of leads in, I think, depending on the ecosystem you're working in, is knowing when to turn down clients as
Yes.
well. Right. And I think lifting pricing up to where it should be will sometimes turn away those folks. But at the same time, as you talk to them, right, and you start to learn, or even if you do take them on, don't be scared to like walk away. I think that's one of the things we've as a team probably learned at least in the last. I did it previously in my other agency, but probably didn't do it because we were early. Should have listened to myself earlier on, and now we're probably listening to that more as well.
Yeah. You definitely know when you reach another phase in your business when you actually get selective and you
Yes.
actually live it, not just,
Right.
the fake, the fake, well, we only take on certain clients and right. Like, but when you get
Yeah.
selective, you've reached that next level, which is great because now you're saying, no to the wrong thing so you can have the ability to say yes to the right one. So coming in. So, well, Jon, this
Yeah.
has been amazing. I want to thank you for coming on the show. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
I think at the end of the day, we had a good conversation there. I would go back to your comment just now. It's like, when you've got to a certain level about saying no, don't be scared of doing that early on, even if it puts your profitability to be tight, because I think doing it early on actually is more beneficial as well.
Yeah, exactly. Well, awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show. And for everyone listening, if you guys, we just put out advanced training for agencies on generating more leads, converting at a higher percentage, building a self-driven sales team, and a whole lot of other cool free resources. That's totally free. If you go to swank.it, it will take you to that page. So go to swank.it. And until next time, have a swank day.
I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out. Click on the link. I'll see you soon.